What's up, everyone? I'm Parth here with the Blitz Boys, the Philly Blitz, episode number 85, the James Casey episode, if you will. Very special episode today. We're joined with by Blaine Grisak, and I'm here with Pierre and Quell. How's everybody doing today, guys? Playoff week.
Oh man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Well, beloved dub to those who celebrate. It is I, the one and only Mark Quell for Arms. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I see my guy Blaine over here repping the Montana State.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Tough loss a couple weeks ago, but no. Hopefully, the Rams come through for me this weekend.
Yeah, man, doing good, man. Like you guys said, brother. Another week of playoff football. It's another entry in the McVay Fangio story rivalry. I'm excited, man. Very excited.
The week has some juice for sure, man. I mean, I don't know who it is, dude. Some Eagles fan. He dropped some hype video. My God, bro, that was magical. The boots one or something like that. That's what they were saying. Y'all gotta we'll tweet it out from the account. But that one had me having chills. And then this afternoon, man, it's like 3 p.m. Friday afternoon. Work is not ended, and I'm just like, all right, let me just cop a scroll real quick. Open up the phone, get on Twitter. And I come across the saxophone player for the national anthem. I think it was 2 years ago.
Cinema.
Oh,
absolute cinema.
Oh my God. 2 notes, bro. 2 notes. And I had chills. Blood pressure was spiked. I was like, let's go. I'm going to the game. First playoff game of my life. I'm fired up, dude. And everyone sitting here talking about, sorry, Blaine, but talking about the Rams are the hottest team. Somebody was on talking about, they won 10 of their last 12 if you don't count the one right before where they rested their starters. What was
I was
kind of just about the games they lost? What was one of those 2 games they lost?
Actually, the last most important game. I was actually just about to get into that. I see you and a couple of other guys from Rams Twitter talking today, Blaine. And it seems to be this misconception going along where you guys believe that we seem to be taking you lightly, but then you look at some of these big media platforms, and as they talk about the game, Eagles fans sit there and look like, why is everybody talking about us like we suck or something? So, I mean, it's kind of been a bit of pushback from the Eagles fandom. So how does it look on your side, your guys' side of the coin?
Yeah, I think it's just, I guess, your typical, playoff pre-game discourse. I guess I think you're going to get that back and forth a little bit. My team's underrated. No, my team's underrated. Your team's overrated. Et cetera, et cetera. But no, I do think the Rams are being underrated a little bit. I think just listening to the pregame shows pregame shows that I have listened to this week. All I've been hearing is how bad the Rams defense is. And meanwhile, over the last 4 games, you take away that last game against the Seahawks where they rested all their starters. They've allowed more than 10 points in 4 straight games. So this defense is playing really well right now at the end of the year. I don't think this is the same defense that the Eagles saw back in week 12. I guess we'll see. We'll see though. Saquon, as you guys are, you guys well know, he's been he's been on another level this year, and he's not easy to stop. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Rams defense can kind of keep up what's been going well for them.
Definitely interesting to see, man. I mean, you talk about this Eagles-Rams matchup. It's interesting. This is the first time the Rams have actually traveled to Philadelphia since week 2 of the 2020 season. This is the 4th time these 2 teams will play in the playoffs. Of course, the Rams have the upper hand with the 2-1 record, the last time being 2001, the greatest show on turf. It's kind of traveling to different waters. We've heard, I believe it was Andrew Whitworth talking earlier today or yesterday, where he said he believed that the Rams have a better advantage coming to Philadelphia, actually, instead of playing in LA with the Eagles and their point differential on turf compared to playing on grass, not to mention the expected weather this weekend. He thinks the Rams compete better in the trenches.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Eagles, that's a fast team. I think when you look at when you're playing on turf, I think the footing's probably a little bit better, and And I guess we've seen the Eagles kind of struggle in the past with their footing on grass. Not to say that they're like this. They're like this year, but you look kind of back to that 2022 Super Bowl back in Arizona. The games playing on grass. Eagles players are sliding all over the place. Not to say it's going to happen again this week at home in Philly. That it's their grass. They know how it plays and everything. But I think it just kind of slows the game down a little bit and kind of neutralizes a couple things. I think when you look at you go back to that Week 12 game, and the Eagles dominate in the trenches, and they might dominate in the trenches again on Sunday. It's probably the best offensive line in football, and honestly, probably one of the better defensive lines as well. And they're both sides are playing really well. But I think if you kind of in the snow and the elements in grass, I think that kind of neutralizes it a little bit. And this is Rams team that I think isn't like past Rams teams. They're not that typical finesse Sean McVay offense. They're the third heaviest offensive line in the NFL that coming into the year. They're a team that they want to punch you in the mouth. They want to run at you, and that's sort of their strength. They're a team that they've shown that they can win ugly down the stretch, and so I think if the Rams can make an ugly game, I think that favors them.
I think that's fair, regarding turf versus grass. And we'll get into injuries in a second, Pierre. But I just wanted to push back because I've seen some of that too. But what people are kind of ignoring, or maybe, it's just narratives, right? But it goes both ways, right? Like, as much as the offensive line won't have traction, the defensive line won't have the same traction. And so, I think it ends up neutralizing each other in the end. And I think, like you said, Blaine, the Rams defense has gotten significantly better since the last time we played, I think. And depending on, health and everything, we'll see what that looks like. But I don't know. Like you said, it's the Eagles home field grass. They've played here a lot, and don't even get me started on that Super Bowl and that fraud that they call the sod father. I mean, that was a mess. I think the most I've seen people slip has been the sod father game and then the Brazil game. That was like, and it's different type of grass for soccer and those types of things. So I think there's an explanation there, but I do tend to think that the Eagles at home, I think they're just comfortable, man. And but will be interesting with snow on the ground, right? How hard is the grass going to be? That's the question you really have to ask: is can you get that traction in the ground? And I remember that Snow Bowl game in what year was it? Like 20?
Yeah, I was at that game. I think it was like 2013 or 2014.
That's awesome. I'm jealous.
Shady went off.
That picture of Shady with the ball out with like the snow in his face. It's just so cool. And then the other image that always takes in my mind is
Jason Kelsey.
Not Jason Kelsey.
Selleck.
Not even Selleck. It's actually the other side.
There was a shot of him like sliding through the snow, like at the end of the game.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. No, absolutely. To me, the one I remember is Megatron made some ridiculous catch, comes up out of the ground, and his face was just covered in snow. You couldn't even see anything. But it'll just be interesting to see. How does traction look? How do people feel? And when it's cold, it's easier to run the ball than it is to catch the ball. That's for sure. So, anyways, should we get into injuries?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got them right here. So for the Eagles, they're essentially healthy. They ruled out Byron Young, but he hasn't played all year. Don't really mean much. But for the Rams, they opened the practice windows of Troy Reeder and Laurel Murchison earlier this week, but they both have been ruled out. Starting left tackle Alaric Jackson, starting nose tackle Bobby Brown III, starting corner Keller Witherspoon, and Justin Diedick, I think I'm saying that right. They're all ruled questionable. Sean McVay has said he expects all four to play, but Jackson specifically, he didn't practice on Wednesday. He was dealing with a chest injury. He was a full go on Thursday, and then he missed Friday's practice with a knee injury. Bobby Brown, he hasn't practiced all week. Keller Witherspoon, he was limited on Friday after not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday. And then this is interesting. I didn't see this before I started prepping for the pod, but Tyler Higbee, he wasn't on the injury report, but he was apparently hospitalized Monday night. But he was a full go on Friday, so he's a full go.
Yeah, I think for the Rams, for the most part, I think they should be pretty healthy. Tyler Higbee being back will be big. He had a chest contusion, I think, on Monday night. And actually, he ended up with spending the night in the hospital of it. Since he's come back from that ACL that he suffered last in the wild card game, he's been a huge part of their offense.
Certainly, specifically last week. I mean, they started to get them going before the injury, of course, occurred.
Yeah.
But I mean, what was notable for me about the last week's game for the Rams is you kind of saw on both sides of the ball their coaching staff present some tendency breakers. So starting with the offensive front, Sean McVay. I mean, when you talk about this Rams team, typically everything starts and ends with them and 11 personnel. At least it has most of the season. But last week, they kind of thrived in 12 personnel against the Vikings, which, I mean, you can kind of say that for their game plan defensively as well. It was kind of, I believe it was game plan specific. But Sean McVay was asked about the ability to operate with multiple tight ends. I believe they used 4 tight ends last week. But just, he said if it works for him this week, they'll use it again. Maybe that's just him being given some gamesmanship or anything. But just to see how the Rams went away from what notably worked for them, why do you think they did that on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think it is game plan specific because the last time they played the Vikings back in week 8, they also went very heavy 12 personnel. So it must have been something that they saw from a personnel standpoint that they wanted to see the Vikings. They thought that they matched up better with the Vikings in their base rather than nickel packages. As far as this week, I don't think they'll have the same success in 12 against the Eagles. I was just looking to see kind of what the Eagles' defensive splits were when offenses are in 12 personnel, and they're one of the best defending. They are the best defending the pass. The Rams really like to get into 12 because it gets Stafford under center. If they can run play action out of that, it doesn't really apply to the Eagles at all. They've been great against it this season. The one thing I guess I will say is that I'm interested to see in this game is the injury to of Nakobe Dean. I think you throw Oren Burks in there, and that's a very different player. So is that a player that you can maybe exploit with a tight end or in the run game a little bit in those heavier offensive packages?
Definitely, man. It was kind of interesting to hear Vic Fangio talk this week because he kind of gave off the impression after Oren Burks' performance last week that we could see a little bit more Jeremiah Trotter. Now, I mean, again, Trotter himself is a rookie, but I was doing some research towards the game this week, and it was kind of interesting to me. It kind of like put some perspective on how big basically he's the weak link on the defense at the moment. It would be for Oren Burks. Oren Burks was actually on that San Francisco team last year when they made their Super Bowl run. And he was the guy that came in and replaced Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl when he went down. And to see exactly what Andy Reid and company were able to do for him, I think they targeted him 10 times, has completed all 10 passes. Like they just kind of like tortured him in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, I mean that was a turning point in the game. Like Kansas City wasn't able to get much going, and then Dre Greenlaw suffers that just freak Achilles injury, and after that they couldn't be stopped.
Yeah,
I think we'll see some sort of rotation between Burks and Trotter because, like you guys talk about, like we know the way the Shanahan and McVay style offenses, the way they like to like isolate and kind of seek out matchups against linebackers that aren't, I guess, proficient in coverage. So I think, at least for me, that's something to keep an eye on.
I think you're right, Pierre. I think we'll see a little bit of both. I think we'll probably see more Trot as the game goes on. That's just my prediction. I think he's a little bit better in coverage, just in terms of having a sense, just kind of understanding the zones and those different types of things. But I do think Vic is going to try to find ways to neutralize that, right? Where it's not like Vic doesn't know that, hey, we're going to be having a rookie out there or a guy who's really struggled in the past. And so I think there's going to just be, like you said, just not only different rotations of players, but different rotations in terms of how they're, covering different plays and different players. And so I think we'll probably see if they start, going after Higbee and trying to get Higbee matched up on one of our linebackers, or probably, Burks or Trot versus Bond. But I think if we start seeing some of that, then maybe you see more Bond on Higbee, maybe you see more Coop on Higbee. I just think there's a lot of chess pieces in that defensive backfield for Fangio to kind of play around with.
So
Yeah,
to that
and
point,
it'll be interesting. I think like just something that I've noticed just watching the Eagles is they do match 12 personnel out of nickel quite a bit. That like Vic Fangio's not afraid to just because that defensive line is so good. They can stop the run with lighter defensive boxes. So I mean they can throw out they can trot out there in nickel and with Cooper DeJean, who's been absolutely incredible this year and probably just be fine in the run game.
yeah, so it puts me back in training camp when Vic talked about the nickel position, and he described it as kind of a pseudo linebacker position. And it makes me think like, could we see maybe some big nickel with Cooper sliding down into the box? Like that's something that I thought about.
That's something that's interesting. I haven't contemplated that part, Pierre. We probably could see them do some big nickel, especially in terms of being able to limit the Rams from exploiting matchups. What I was just about to say when to kind of respond to you, Parth, was I would like to see that, or I would like to hope they might as well give us a sponsorship at this point, Pierre. I would like to hope that that Fangio does a good job of protecting the weak link at linebacker this week. At the same time, what scares me is, like you said, Pierre, they hunt matchups. This Rams team, there's only one team in the league that motions more than them. They believe they motion on 82% of their of their snaps. They attach play action on 32% of those snaps. So they're going to make these guys work. Now, the scariest part about that is I heard a stat somewhere where of those motion plays, the offensive player on the Rams who motioned gained 1,600 yards, being the player who, of course, who was in motion and received the ball on the season. That was the most in the Next Gen Stats era. The person who led that is Puka Nacua with his 457 yards after motion. Now, of course, the Eagles are the best defense in the league against motion, but I don't want to say they struggled, but it wasn't one of their best games when they played this Rams team and they tried to match up what they did motion-wise the first game. So the fact that they got more inexperienced players on the field now, kind of throwing off the communication, is what's interesting to me.
I think that's a good point, Quell. And to your point, Pierre, I think we might see, Coop coming down as like a, lighter linebacker at some points. But the other side of that is if you're having Coop come down instead of a linebacker, who does that mean is on the field?
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
Right.
See,
so
wait. Like we talked about last pod.
Safety Avante.
Safety
right?
Avante.
So
you bring Chauncey down into the nickel. That's the way you mitigate it. That's the way you mitigate it.
I would tend to agree, except Chauncey's been struggling in coverage so much this year that it does not feel like he ever played nickel in his career. I get what you're saying, but yeah, you have to push and pull from different places, right? So I think we'll see.
I'm not saying I think it'd be a every down thing.
Oh no, of course. Yeah,
every once in a while we could see it,
and that's where I'm kind of getting to. Is I think this is going to be. You said you hated Vic Fangio's outfit, and I think that was really wrong of you because I think he looks ready. He looks like a man who has his bag ready. He's about to get in that bag. His bag is like,
out there.
The magician's duffels that just keeps going. He's going to keep pulling out scarves. That's what he's going to do with the plays. You know what I mean? Like Vic is here to play, and there's a reason that LaFleur, McVay, McDaniel, all those guys talked about Vic Fangio as the hardest guy to coach against. So. I know.
It's like we like to refer to Todd Bowles as Jalen Hurts' own personal hell. Well, Vic Fangio is somewhat of Sean McVay's personal hell.
Absolutely. Okay. Quick aside. How do you feel, Pierre? Last year it was a pretty good W. You got to watch the game at your grandma's house. Get to tell your uncle off.
You mean last week?
Last week. I said last year. How you feeling about this week? House divided, of course. Pierre's little brother is in the chat here saying gonna be 50-0 BTA. Puka might be the greatest of all. I'm gonna give you the chance to respond to your little brother here.
I don't got no response, man. We gonna let the play on the field do the talking. We gonna let the play on the field do the talking.
I'm not even gonna read his second comment, but I do like that though. We're talking about Puka here, and the thing about Puka, I've been thinking about this matchup a lot. Is he's just so damn strong, right? He doesn't seem like he's the strongest guy, but the play strength that he has is what his superpower is. It's not like he's like the fastest or shiftiest guy, but he's so strong. But he's got the prerequisite speed and agility for that as well. I'm excited about this matchup because I think Coop is like the defensive version of Puka, where it's just like you can just kind of have him playing all over the field wherever it might be. The dude is just strong as hell, like corn-fed strong, and he's just gonna like just play physical ball. And so I think that's gonna be an extremely exciting matchup to watch. The play that sticks out in my head is the Bengals game, right, where they try to motion Jamar and then they try to get him the ball for that for the first down, and Coop gets the TFL. I think I'm thinking we maybe see a little something like that this week. Get the crowd going a little bit.
So speaking of Puka, what has gone into basically this Puka takeover in this Rams offense? I mean, the last time we met the Rams, there was the conversation we had when we did our preview about how it was kind of the Puka and Cooper show. Matthew did nothing but target those two guys against the Patriots. They had their way. And now here we are, fast forward to modern day, and Cooper Kupp is almost non-existent in the offense. I think he has 4 targets and less than 4 receptions in 4 straight games, under 30 yards in 4 straight games. You talk about last week, Matthew Stafford was able to complete passes to 8 different Rams, a far cry from the conversation we were having last time. But through all this, it's the Puka Nacua show. He's targeted at a 39.8% rate over the last few weeks, which is the most in the league. He's kind of like taking over as the 1A in this offense. So what has gone into that?
I think it's a few things. Like Puka Nacua is just incredible. I think he's I think people see him as a really good wide receiver, but I don't necessarily think people know or recognize just how good he is. Like I'd probably put him inside the top 5, if not the top 3. He's just he's not he doesn't have the same, I guess, athletic like freakiness as someone like Justin Jefferson, but he can still make those just freaky catches, and he's so good as a route runner, so good as a blocker that it really separates him from I think that second tier of guys. But yeah, I think so. Part of it, I think, is just Puka Nacua is just really freaking good. Another part of it is I think Cooper Kupp has fallen off a little bit. He's nearing that age 30. He's dealt with injuries throughout his career, and I think those are starting to take their toll. He's not the same. He's not the same player that he was even 3 years ago when he won the Triple Crown. He doesn't have the same explosiveness. And then Demarcus Robinson is just really inconsistent. He's somebody that He'll have a really good week, and then you won't see him for another 5-6 weeks, and all of a sudden he has 2 touchdowns. And hopefully hopefully he does that again. Hopefully he does that this week, but I guess we'll see. But I think just the Rams are missing that second guy. That second guy in the wide receiver room. I'd like to see Jordan Whittington a little more. He sixth round player out of Texas who did play well during the beginning of the season. Actually played really well against the Seahawks back in Week 18. But yeah, I think it's just part of it is Puka Nacua is really good, but another part of it is just Cooper Kupp's fallen off, and then they just don't really have another guy that Stafford trusts enough to consistently feed them the ball.
I gotta say, got love for DeMarcus. Chauncey's not gonna let that happen. Chauncey's not gonna lose to a teammate. No way. It was all sweet in Florida, not here in Philly. No, I think that's all just super interesting. And I saw the stat. Cooper Kupp has had only 1,000-yard receiving season.
Yes.
That blew my mind.
In his career?
And that one, he won the triple.
What?
Right.
We've talked so great about him, and you see that, and it's like,
wait. He's only had 1,000-yard receiving season in his career.
He probably would have gotten one in 2018, but he got hurt. I think in week 13. I think it might have been the week we played you guys, or the week after. It was around the same time period. And then in 2022, he probably gets it again, but he hurt his ankle and was put on IR and missed the rest of the year.
Interesting.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, wait, I had to double
That's
check it.
shocking.
I was like, there's no way. Because
That's shocking.
because he still talked about it as, one of the best
If I'd have
receivers.
known this, I would talk more trash about him. I would have put him on my Alvin Kamara list. It makes me so proud to this day that Alvin Kamara hasn't got a 1,000-yard season. Lamar Jackson has more 1,000-yard seasons than Alvin Kamara. Shame.
Yeah, because they always talk about his 1,000 being all purpose. It's never pure rushing. I see.
It's hilarious to me.
Interesting. The media. I'm noticing the hashtag noticer.
So I guess one thing you can note, while like you said, there is no secondary receiver, it seems to be that the secondary playmaker of sorts in this offense has become Kyren Williams. I mean, of course, it seems that the offense starts and ends with what they want to do on the rushing attack. I mean, we talked about how often they play action at 32%, but they do a true good job of balancing on first and second down. I mean, on neutral downs, what they want to do or how they present their offense to defenses. But again, when you talk about Kyren and how he was able to succeed, specifically last week against this Vikings defense, how they utilized him both as a pass catcher and as a runner. And I mean, I like to think personally, I mean, of course, most people would tell you about how the Eagles' rush defense has been phenomenal this season, rightfully so. And I personally would tell you that it's just something about that Josh Jacobs guy who is special. He's really special. I think a lot of people don't give him the credit that he deserves in this league. That why the Eagles defense last week and in week one seemingly just could not freaking tackle. But when you just look at this Eagles defense specifically, they've done a pretty good job against the run. They did a pretty solid job against Kyren the first time in those two fumbles, one that was recovered, of course, by the Rams, one that they ruled them down on. But how exactly do you get Kyren Williams involved if you are the Rams?
I think those first two drives, they did find success running the ball. I think Kyren Williams had like a 47.6% success rate or something, if I remember right, back in week 12. So they did find some success in the run game. I think when it comes to Sunday, the three interior offensive line for the Rams really have to step up. Steve Avila really struggled against Jalen Carter in the first meeting. And I think that was one of his first games back. Bo Limmer has been fine at center, but he's fine. He's not really he's fine. And then Kevin Dotson. Kevin Dotson is really has really. Well, he really stepped up towards the end of the year once Rob Havenstein kind of came back and those two got in rhythm. But those three really need to bully guys like Jordan Davis, bully guys like Jalen Carter, and that's a lot easier said than done. So I think it starts there, and then Kyren Williams, I think he needs to create on his own a little bit, and that's kind of something that he has struggled with a little bit this year. He needs to be able to create those big plays. On his own. He's great behind the line of scrimmage. He's really shifty. He doesn't take a lot of negative runs, which is why he's so good in short yardage. But I mean, against this Eagles defense, and it's something that Josh Jacobs kind of really did really well against the Eagles, is he created those explosive runs to give the offense scoring opportunities.
I think Nakobe Dean being out, that's gonna bode well for the Rams in the rushing attack also.
Yeah, Dean was a monster in that first game. I meant to mention him. Between him and Brandon Graham, I think we're missing 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, just collectively between those two, the game that they had in week 12. So who do you guys think?
Is that the game BG got injured?
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
So who do you guys think necessarily could step up in this instance, or how do you guys think that we, for lack of a better term, mitigate the loss of those two defensively?
The pride of Savannah, who is not on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. And the way Nick said it is exactly what I always say too, man. It's just he plays football the way it's supposed to be played, the way you'd want your sons to play football, like head on fire. I'm going to be the toughest one out here. I'm never going to give up on the play. And it's fun to watch. And, you mentioned it, Quell. You said last game was the BG game and everything he was doing and the impact that he had on the game. We've been saying it for the last couple of years. Maybe he's not going to be the Hassan clone. Maybe he has Hassan's body type, but play type, he plays like BG. And I see him making a profound impact in this game. I think in the last couple games, you can see that it's all really just clicking and coming together at the perfect freaking time, man. I mean, these last couple weeks, he's just been on fire. And last week against the all-pro tackle who was selected over Lane Johnson, made him look like breakfast, and then there was like that run fit where he was whoever the guard was coming across.
That was Jenkins. That was the play Jenkins got hurt on, actually.
Bro had to go out the field and stretch out his neck, and Nolan Smith is still on the field. That type of play, it makes an impact, and it's the type of play that you can consistently make because it's not like it's some like super lucky or like he's having to put on like 3-4 moves on a guy. It's just effort and just in pursuit and determination, and that's why I think he's just going to be able to make a really big impact there. And then at the linebacker spot after you lose Nakobe, I think you're right. I mean, I think this was the game where there was like that hit where you heard it on the camera, and there was violence. It was like a 5-yard run, but I was like, how the hell did you pick up so much speed and hit someone so hard in that little amount of time? So and you could see it last week, the impact of losing to Kobe in the run game. I think you gotta depend on your defensive line here to step up and help with the run game. You're gonna have Zach Bond, and he's been spectacular this year. And it's not like, it's pretty wild that we had 2 really good linebackers for once instead of like, one good one and then one kind of good one. So, you have that there. I keep saying it, man. I think Jalen Carter is gonna just keep making plays. And last week, he had a couple good plays. It wasn't like some monster Jalen Carter game by any means, but I think missing Nakobe, knowing what's on the line, I think we see some more impact from Jalen Carter as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we've talked about, a lot when the Eagles have faced these kind of zone-based offenses. I think we see them utilize a lot of the 5-man fronts. Like you talked about, Parth play of Zach Bond. It specifically reminds me of the New Orleans game where, like we keep bringing up, they were in their like nickel-based defense, and they kept like whenever the Saints would motion, they bring Bond down, and then they drop him when the ball is snapped. So just using him as that kind of chess piece, I think that'll help them a lot against this Rams offense too.
Do you think we see more Jordan Davis? Because there were 68 snaps last game, and he played 12. I think we end up seeing more of him, especially if we're.
I think that also considering the weather. Yeah,
I think we see more Jordan Davis, just typically off the strength of the kind of runs the Rams like to do. Typically, when you talk about these McVay offenses, they specialize in zone architect runs. I talked all year about how the Eagles, for half the year, got their butt kicked along the edges with teams that ran stretch and things of that nature. Well, this Rams team, they're actually a gap run scheme.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those, you need Jordan Davis. Come fill these gaps. Don't let him get to where he wants to go. And everybody else is kind of hopefully like it was the first time when they doubled Jalen Carter. It opens up situations for Milton Williams and things of that nature.
Milton, he had a career game against the Rams last game, right? Was it 2 sacks?
Mm-hmm.
He was eating.
But as we move to the other side of the ball, I think this is the more interesting side of the ball for me. I mean, of course, we talked about the whole boogeyman thing with McVay and Fangio, and that'll probably be what is talked about publicly. But quietly, Rams defensive coordinator, first-year defensive coordinator, I might add, Chris Shula, is him and his young defense. They're slowly but surely coming together. You talk about the young guys up front with Kobe Turner, Bradman Young, of course, Jared Verse, and his running mate, Breeden Fisk. But this Rams team defense as a whole, I think they've done a great job of growing since that last Eagles game. I think it kind of goes unspoken about now. Again, like I said at the top of the pod, it was very interesting to me, the defensive game plan they decided to roll with. I also think that was very game specific. I think he kind of took a page out of Aaron Glenn's playbook and said, this Vikings team can't beat man coverage, so we're going to play man coverage. And of course, when you look at the numbers, I believe they ran man on approximately 30% of their snaps, which is a far cry from the 15.5 they did all season long. typically a zone coverage team. Now, when you talk about Jalen Hurts and how you would attack Jalen Hurts, while that worked against the Vikings, Jalen Hurts is what we like to refer to as the man killer. He's much better when you show him man coverage than once you show him zone coverage, which what Green
best
Bay
quarterback versus 29th best quarterback EPA with man versus zone.
Exactly. So when you look at what a lot of what Green Bay did, not just last week, but the first time as well, I mean, they showed their fair share of pressure. And when they did, Jalen, of course, like you see on the touchdown to Goddard, he killed them like he's done all year. But when they were able to drop their 8 in the coverage and make him read through, that's where some of the struggles began. And of course, like I said, this Rams team, 78% of their defensive snaps 75% of their defensive snaps are zones, out of zone coverage. So how do you expect Shula to attack this Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense this week?
Yeah, I mean, it really starts up front. The Rams need to be able to get to Jalen Hurts with 4 guys. I think he's I think he is the best quarterback against the blitz this year, if I remember right. But from there, you kind of got to pick your poison. Like, I think ideally you want to play with you want to play too high and make Jalen Hurts kind of target the middle of the field. That's where he struggled throughout his career, and just kind of and make him move on to his different reads that way. But you do that, and you leave lighter box, obviously, and that obviously favors Saquon a little bit. But then you play single high, bring an eighth guy down the box, and Jalen Hurts, he's really good. He's really good over the top. He's really good targeting the outside. He's got some great pair of wide receivers on the outside in AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. So it's going to be key, I think, for the Rams to win the battle up front this week, which they didn't do back in Week 12. They have to be able to get Hurts with 4. They have to be able to stop to contain Barkley so that they can have the luxury of playing too high.
Yeah, it's a. Go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to say what you said right there. It's a luxury to play too high. That's exactly what it is. Is you have to be able to stop the run first if you want to be able to and that's what this Eagles offense is supposed to do to you. Is make you make that tough decision. Before you go, Quell, all I wanted to say is, with Shula, he's just one letter away from greatness, but that's okay. Blaine, my last name is Shukla. And so he's just missing the K. His granddaddy was my dad's favorite coach. We were watching the game last week, and he's like, grandson, and that made him feel real old for a second. That was pretty funny. But sorry, Paul, go on.
So I guess I'll give you a chance to mitigate exactly a lot of what's going on, because a lot of Eagles talk. A lot of probably would be happening on this podcast if you weren't here. I'm not going to lie to you. Not for me. I'd be trying to be like, wait, guys, calm down. But there's this misconception that the Rams defense sucks. Why is this not true? Because again, I've seen you and Jerry.
I wouldn't say they suck.
I'm just not scared.
Yeah. Hashtag not good.
That don't mean they suck.
Fine. Hashtag fine. It's
okay.
Not. And they're injured too. They're injured too. And I'm sorry. Like, no offense, Blaine, but if your team is sitting here and you're like, we'll be good if we got Akella Witherspoon, brother, you got bigger issues. Should we pull up the Steelers game?
He wasn't healthy, man.
When you played AJ Brown? No, I understand. I don't think they're a bad defense by any means, but I also know what this offense should be able to do. And I know it's a little frustrating to be saying that in the second round of the playoffs already, in the divisional round. We're here talking about, we know what they can do, but you got the damn Monstars on your team. Like figure it out.
We don't like to use the term Monstars.
I know, but last week they acted like it. They played fine, but I was like, come on, man. Like, I think they're fine. But like Blaine said, there's gonna have to be decisions that the defense has to make. And I just think the offense has the ability to capitalize on either of those decisions, right? It's like, are you going to play too high or are you going to put a man in the box? And we have an answer with a super powered player at each of those spots. And I think that's what I kind of keep coming back to.
Yeah,
I think this Rams defense. I think when you look at the secondary, it's obviously not pretty. Keller Williamson's not my favorite player by any means. He's made some plays this year. Darius Williams kind of started the year rough, has played well down the stretch. They early on in the year they were a team that you could really target over the top, and over the back half of the year they've done a lot better, not panicking in the. Not panicking in those situations. But again, like I said, they have to be able to get to Jalen Hurts with 4, because if they don't, this just isn't. It's not a secondary that's going to be able to hold up 4 or 5 seconds in coverage, let alone against AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, etc. They're not. And I mean, you can say it for most secondaries, but that's especially the case with this one. So Shula's going to have to draw up some creative pass rush plans to get through that front 5 and get Hurts out of the pocket, moving a little bit and off of his spot.
Speaking of that, though, sorry, Pierre, just before you go, someone just respond to that is I thought the Rams did a good job of that last time. I'm pretty sure that play where Mailata kind of ended up on his ass was some kind of twist as well. So that's definitely something that, is to keep your eye on, because I think the strength of this Rams team is probably the defensive line.
And they got him scrambling into the right again.
Sorry, Pierre, you were trying to get something in.
To that point, 30% of Jalen's dropbacks in that Week 12 game were on play action. So they kind of, I guess, as the game moved on, they kind of tried to move the pocket and get Jalen on the move. Also in the run game, they got him involved. I think he had 12 carries for 39 yards, which isn't a lot, but for Jalen this year, that's something to note. Mm-hmm. But no, just in totality for the Eagles offense, I think, especially when you consider the weather, it's supposed to snow, it's supposed to be extremely cold. I think it's a big time pound the rock, ball control style game. If you look at the Rams defense on the year, they've kind of struggled with stopping the run all year. They ranked 21st in total run defense and 22nd in defensive rush EPA. Of course, we all know Saquon Barkley had a career game in Week 12. So I think that's something, to monitor.
So I think it's like a glass half full, glass half empty kind of thing where, like we said, they're two different teams. They're a different team than what they played the last time. I mean, while you have those numbers, and I mean, it gets even worse than that, Pierre. You're talking about a Rams team who, on the year, including the playoffs, they allow 3.1 yards per rush. I mean, yards before contact, 28th in the league. 4.7 yards per rush and 128 yards per game, also near the bottom of the league. But then when you talk about a Sean McVay defense in general in the playoffs, I don't think they've allowed a 100-yard rusher, and it's been quite a long time, I can tell you that. Now, of course, Saquon Barkley has went over 100 yards in 7 of his last 8. So something's got to give, for lack of a better term.
Were any of the running backs that they played named Saquon Barkley?
If you go since Week 7, the first 6 weeks from the Rams defense were very good. This was a young group trying to figure who they were without Aaron Donald, et cetera, et cetera. You go since Week 7, which includes the Eagles game. They are 14th in run defense EPA and 11th in run defense success rate. So outside of Saquon Barkley, they have been really good. They have been really good against run. Now, obviously, like I said earlier in the show at the very beginning, Saquon Barkley is a different beast. There's a reason why he was in MVP conversations and why he will probably be the offensive player of the year. But this is a Rams defense that I think people look at the season numbers as a whole and see that 23rd, 24th, 25th ranked defense against run, et cetera, and it just. I think those first 6 weeks kind of cloud the picture a little bit, I guess.
I
think that's fair, but whenever it comes to running the ball, playing any defense, it doesn't matter who the hell they have. I mean, we played the Rams when they had Aaron Donald, and we were still able to run the ball.
Yeah,
that's what I come back to. We played Micah Parsons at his when he was Micah Parsons and like this and this. We ran the ball on them. We have
even this year, whenever they've played, you know,
The
top
Ravens,
3,
the
top
Steelers.
5, yeah,
Right.
top 5 rushing defenses, they've still been able to run the ball and almost at will.
And the thing about this, the run game that is so, this is what makes it frustrating. And I've been thinking about this last couple of days, and I've been holding on to it because I don't know if I mean, and I think I'm going to say it because it's fair. I've just been so insanely underwhelmed with Kellen Moore and his passing concepts. It's like, dude, what the hell, man? Like
Wait,
like,
Parth, wait. Does this have anything to do with him interviewing for the Cowboys head coaching job?
No.
2 days
Honestly,
before the game.
I pray to God he takes it. I want him the hell out of my city, bro. He gives me just bad vibes, big teeth, bad vibes. I don't like it, bro. Go back to the Cowboys. Stop bringing Cowboys here. What happened with DeMarco Murray, Miles Austin?
Time out. Pause.
What?
Trying to figure out where to start. Let's win a playoff game first before we talk about what jobs he's taking. Let's not talk about that yet. Secondly, I mean, what happened to wanting Jalen Hurts in the same system for 2 years? Year one was supposed to be
I get it. But if you're here entertaining 3 different jobs, you haven't done anything of like validity, substance this year. I don't know. Do I really want to be like, oh, for continuity's sake, keep Kellen Moore around? Because it's like, hey, I've watched the whole season. Quell, just give me a second, bro. Because I've just this has been on my mind. It's stressing me out, bro.
We're gonna have a episode about this. This is why I'm telling you. We're gonna give you every one of us because eventually we're gonna have is it worth it with Kellen Moore conversation?
Absolutely.
And I think that deserves a whole episode.
Totally. So I won't even get into that too much. But the reason I bring this up is because something that people don't really mention that often is Kellen Moore is not really in charge of the run game. Jeff Stoutland is the run game coordinator, and he's been that through all the head coaches of the last couple of years. You know, like everything that's happened, all the offensive coordinators, everyone who's been here. The one thing that has remained constant has been the Eagles run game, the Eagles offensive line, and that is what Jeff Stoutland has been in charge of. So even when we're talking about the Eagles' offensive struggles, offensive woes, I think it comes down to the passing game. I think there's a lot of meat left on that bone, and it's pretty damn obvious. But with the run game, man, I really find it tough to get fired up because we have maybe the best positional coach of all time coaching us. So that's my 10 cents on that.
Yeah, man. Y'all know if y'all been listening to the pod, I was the drum beater for Kellen Moore.
Hey, throw your thumb up.
That guy, not me. That guy.
But no, just in terms of the passing attack, I don't think it's a stretch to say that, you know, us as Eagles fans, we've been pretty underwhelmed. And for me, I didn't expect it. I thought Kellen would come in and, you know, implement a lot of, you know, easy buttons for Jalen. Like just even like we always talk about with Kellen, like the route concepts, extremely uninspiring, kind of repetitive to an extent. But that's besides the point, man. Like Quell said, bro, we got a playoff game.
We're getting caught up on this. It's just like making me more.
I told you he deserves an episode.
You're right.
We're gonna get into all.
We're gonna get into Kevin Patullo too. It's a lot of people that in that building that they getting away scot free right now that we're not having real conversations about. Where it's like, well, when it's time to get down to it, we will.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the thing that's made it more frustrating is we finally see some boot rollout, and it's like, hey, Jalen's comfortable doing this as well. They do it all of freaking week 18 with Tanner McKee, but you can't call it more than once with Jalen Hurts. I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much because there's also the school of thought where it's like, hey, we have this dominant run game, we have this dominant defense. Don't turn the ball over. Don't mess it up. And that's what Tom Brady didn't throw for, 300 yards in every game when they were going and winning Super Bowls. And Jalen has said it before. You do what you got to do to win. So I understand that. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say, hey, you guys are way more talented than what's showing up on paper. And that needs to show as well.
But yeah, man, there's a playoff game on Sunday, 3 p.m., Lincoln Financial Field. As a bit of a wrap up here, how are we feeling going into that game? Let's go around the room.
Start with you, Blaine.
I honestly think the Eagles are probably the best or the most like well-rounded football team in the NFC. They have the best defense in the NFL. I think ran by probably the best defensive coordinator. Offensively, they do enough in the passing game, and that run game is elite. As much as I would love to say the Rams are going to come out and win this game, I kind of think after last week against the Vikings, that was, I don't want to say their ceiling, but that winning that game for the city of Los Angeles and everything that city's been through over the last 2 weeks now, and what they're still going through, that was just a very high emotional win. And coming off of such an emotional win like that isn't always easy. I think the Rams keep it close. I think the line is like 6.5. I think the Rams cover. I just don't. I'm not sure they do. They get enough to win.
Cool. I'll let you go.
Okay. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good, man. I do think, like Wayne just said, it'll be a close game for a lot of the time. I do think, I mean, kind of like I spoke about me in last week, me being a historian kind of guy, superstitions, things of that nature. The history of the game is once again talking to me. And I mean, you're talking about an Eagles team who they haven't lost a game in the history of their franchise. They have a league high best record 6-0 in the divisional round.
Wow.
They average 25.2 points per game and only allows 11.7 points per game in these matchups. I think it's hard to see a window where, at least talent-wise, where the Rams win this game. But like I was saying to Pierre, me and him was talking early on, I think a lot of these playoff games come down to coaching ultimately. And I think that I don't think what the Rams have over there are any slouches. They have a really good coaching staff, which is why the game will be close for a while. But trying to hang with this Eagles team for 4 quarters is hard, especially when you have the vice grip known as Saquon Barkley in the second half of games, man.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like I've looked all over, tried to really look in depth into the matchup this week as I prepare for the pod, and I just don't see an area where, just in terms of matchup, the Rams have the upper hand, right? Like, you look along the trenches, and I think this game, it would have come down to the battle of trenches even before the weather was reported to be, what it was. But I just think, it just, the way this game is right now in terms of the weather and just in general, I think it suits the Eagles better, right? You talked about Saquon Barkley, who, like you talked about, Blaine, in all likelihood is going to be the NFC Offensive Player of the Year. I just think having him, in your backfield, that's going to prove to be the difference maker.
Okay, my turn. I'll tell you how I feel. I hate Rams fans. You're so annoying. I hate Rams fans. When I see that gold and blue, I hate it. I actually get upset. I actually genuinely get hot. Guess what? Jared Verse, all right? Last name of a part of a song. Jared Verse. Listen here, bud. Come to Philadelphia. See what happens. I'm going to be in the crowd, buddy. I'm going to be in the crowd, and you're going to hear me. You're going to hear it. You're going to feel the anger. You're going to feel the Eagles fans. You're not ready to come to Philly, buddy. You have no idea what's coming for you. B2A. And Florida State Seminole talking to me too, Mr. Transfer Portal. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Man, you got one lucky little stunt on Jordan Mailata, and now all of a sudden you think you're all him. I'm so nice. Guess what? If Quinyon Mitchell's interception last week had been in the regular season, we won't be talking about you anymore. Okay, buddy? If CJ can steal multiple picks from Quinyon, we wouldn't be talking about you, buddy. All right, get the hell out of here. Such a rookie. Oh, Eagles fans make me so mad. Good, buddy. That's what I'm here to do.
I don't want to be that guy.
Then don't. Be quiet. Don't. Be quiet. Just don't. I don't give a damn. Jared Verse, Jared Gurse, Jared Hurst. I'm going to put him in a hearse, bro. Go
put him in a coffin.
Birds
by floor cannon.
Get the hell out of here, Jared Verse. I hate Eagles fans. Do you know how that goes for anyone? Anytime anyone has said that, Joey Bosa still has nightmares about coming to Philly. I make more than you do in a week. Guess what, buddy? We're in your head. I'm up here. You're never going to get me out. You're going to hear me all game. Listen for Parth on the announcements. or on
But
the
you-
on
Listen
the
to
TV.
Parth.
But you know what the crazy thing about that whole Jared verse situation is? The Rams were at home in that game. So, like,
I'd hate Eagles fans too if I was him.
That
Took
is
over my
crazy. I didn't
stadium.
think about that. I didn't think about that.
Salty,
That is crazy.
salty big baby, classic Florida State Mike Norvell player, student athlete. Get the hell out of here, bro. Doors over there. Oh yeah. Oh, how'd your bowl game go?
Look, man. Look,
That's all I
man.
got. Oh, what about the playoffs? Should we write a letter to the playoffs about we got left
Hey,
out?
look. Hey. We won't mention that. They got screwed.
First, all I do is whine. Shut up, big baby.
but all right, man. I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank you to everybody who tapped into the stream. Appreciate
Wait.
you, Blaine, for tapping in with us, man. We had a lot of fun talking this matchup with you. Let everybody know where they can find you on X and Instagram.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
writing.
I appreciate you. You can follow me on Twitter at BGrisakTST, and you can follow all my writing, all my work at turfshowtimes.com.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for joining us, bro. We really appreciate it.
Always a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you.
All right, and we're gonna release this as a pod. So on whichever podcast streaming platform you're listening on, be sure to leave us a like and a review. Rate us 5 stars. And thank you to everybody for joining. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go
And
Birds.
Chase Daniel, trim down your beard. It's too thick. Makes your neck look big.
Notre Dame can go to hell.